Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is April 3rd, Wednesday, 2019, and tonight's topic, cryptos continue their ascent and now they are on the descent. So we're going to talk about what happened in the crypto markets the past couple of days and get your thoughts on what we might expect going forward, given that there was no news that prompted the big rush up yesterday, and then also for most of the day today, though we're seeing a bit of a retracement. But let's get into what happened in the general markets today. We've also got a couple of good moronic stories. We've got a Chinese story. We've got some news on Fed Chair Powell. So let's get into that. The Dow Jones was up 39 points today, just 0.15% up. NASDAQ up about 0.6%, up 46 points. And the S&P 500 was up 0.21% to 2873. Dow Jones, though, is over 26,000. It's at 26,218. Gold and silver have been flat to declining the past week or so. Now, remember, we talked about the general flatness of all the markets a couple of weeks ago, and we were wondering what might happen. And gold and silver have drifted lower, and we've seen the cryptos surge higher. But let's take a look at the gold price. Gold price closed at $12.87, and it's up. That's about where it is right now. It's at $12.90, and that was down 0.35%. Silver fell, but oddly enough, it didn't fall as much. If you're hoping for the gold-silver ratio to improve based on silver falling less than gold, that's not going to do any good. Silver fell 0.09%, is essentially flat at $15.09, hanging above $15 a share, $15 an ounce, and it is now at $15.10. Now let's take a look at that unsustainable, out-of-whack gold-silver ratio. It's still over 80 to 1. It's at 85.35 to 1, although it did decline a bit today on the basis of the greater fall in the price of gold than the price of silver. Platinum was the big winner today, up about 20 bucks. Palladium and rhodium were down, and crude oil has been on a bit of a surge recently to 62.49 a barrel. All right, let's take a look now at the crypto prices. Now they have, I made these charts a half an hour ago, but they've changed. We'll take a look at where they are. They'll give you some idea of the price movement that we've seen. They don't update automatically, but let's just take a look. Starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin let it all off yesterday with a big surge from about 4,200 over to 5,000. Ticked up the rest of the day after it fell a bit, and then started to climb again later in the day. I think it got to about 5,300. And right now, it looks like it's on a bit of a descent. I think it's still above $5,000. Let's see if it just refresh here, and it looks like it is still hanging on. It's on the way down though. It's at $5,009. Now Litecoin had surged. Let's take a look at this chart. This is quite interesting. Litecoin surged all the way to $100 today, about 2 hours ago. Here I caught it just before it hit that, and you could see it went from about $60 in the initial surge to $68 yesterday. Then it made a big run up to the 80s, and then it dropped down a bit, and then later in the day, today, went all the way up to $100, and right now, it's at $79. So it's really gone on a roller coaster ride there, and we're seeing that in the other ones too. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum hasn't had the same surge, and I don't think it's taking the same dive, but Litecoin was up about 40 some odd percent today. Bcash was up over 50% today and yesterday, so it's really made a big drive. Ethereum got up to about $178, as you can see there, and right now it's a 159. So in the 24-hour period, Ethereum is still up 1%. Bitcoin is up 5.4%, and Litecoin is still up 13%. And Bcash is still up 30%. But let's take a look at the Bcash. It had been up over 50%. And I caught the chart just before the peak. It had been up to about $340. That's the peak It started this whole surge at 170. So it actually doubled in 2 days. Now this is, you can't expect on no news a stock or a cryptocurrency to double and not retrace. That is a parabolic rise when you see something like that on no news. Now, the only time you can see that parabolic rise continue is if there was news that indicated, oh, we didn't know this, but now there is a 100-fold demand for Bcash. Or not anyone tuning in right now, I'm not saying that there is, but if there was a 100-fold increase in demand in any of these cryptocurrencies, then you can see the price rising for days on end. But when there's no news, basically I think what you had today after the initial push higher yesterday, the big spike, was basically FOMO, fear of missing out, because you see them starting to move, you're wondering what's going on. I don't want to miss this run up. We know cryptocurrencies run up, but then what happens is if there is no news and there's no particular reason why they rose other than they're cryptocurrencies and they go up, then you can see how that might turn around and go the other way. Now, as we're talking, Bitcoin, last we quoted was $5,000, and now it is at 48.36. So it is definitely taking itself down. Litecoin's at 76.47. That one didn't move. Bitcoin is taking a bit of a dive. Now, what might happen here is, let's take a look at some of the others, is you might get a consolidation at a certain point halfway up the ladder of which it rose, and then if that happens, that's probably good news, and they can go up again, or they can come right back down to where they were and crash through that resistance and then continue to go lower. I don't know how these things work. I'm just pointing out what I've seen happen before. Here's Stellar. Same thing. Stellar moved up, had a nice run. I believe it's probably, I haven't checked it, but it was up to 13 cents, and now it is down to 11 cents. So that's also gone down, and now that one's down. So all the cryptos have, in the last hour, taken a turn downward. Let's see if we also have EOS. Remember, these charts are an hour old now. They don't reflect the sell-off. There's your EOS. That's at $5.80. And right now, that one is at, I don't have the price on that one. And then also, we want to check, I guess there's one more. Oh, XRP, a lot of people follow that one. That's Ripple. That had gotten up to about 37 cents, up from 31 cents 2 days ago. And now that one is, I don't have the price of that one either. It's probably also gone down. All right, let's move on to some of the stories, because as I've been saying for the past 6, 8, 10 months, maybe 2 years, the price is not indicative really of anything, because we've saw this price, we've seen these prices move higher for no reason at all, and I've been focusing on what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. And so let's take a look at some stories. And again, I mentioned yesterday that some of these stories have a cumulative effect, but I don't think any of them in particular gave the impetus for the rise, and I don't think any of these stories will stop it from going down or up. I think that in the aggregate, they will impact the price going forward, but not on a day-to-day basis. We talk about Bitcoin ATMs a lot. They have doubled in the past year, and there are now 4,415 global Bitcoin ATMs. 2,805 are located in the United States, and there's nearly 3,000 of them that dispense Litecoin. That in and of itself doesn't move the price, but is indicative of somewhat of adoption. Yesterday, Pablo forwarded this to me. Japan's biggest railway plans to accept cryptocurrency payments, and that shows how, again, it's an adoption issue in and of itself. Doesn't mean much, but would have meant a lot 5, 6 years ago, because no one was accepting Bitcoin in that capacity. But this is things that are more commonplace today. One thing that is important that I do like to point out a lot, when people don't understand the amount of money that's pouring into cryptocurrencies and the ecosystem and storage and stable coins and development and innovation is every day there's some story about a certain amount of money flowing into a certain project. It's not just the big projects like Backed between Microsoft and Boston Consulting, Starbucks, and the New York Stock Exchange, but it's also smaller things like this startup raising $3.7 million to develop smart contract scalability. There was another announcement today, $30 million going into a stablecoin development. And we've seen a lot of stablecoins raise even much more than $30 million. Stablecoins there's at least a dozen of them that are really pretty large other than Tether. And they all have most of them are tied to either a particular fiat currency or they have some algorithmic way of maintaining a stable price. Lots of money in going into those, 30 million into this USD backed stablecoin to provide unbanked consumers with payment options. Here's another one. Japan crypto trading platform Liquid hits unicorn status with over 1 billion valuation. Now this is a company that is raising capital, and in their most recent capital raise, they valued the shares that they were buying as if they had bought all of them would be $1 billion. That is the Series C funding, so it's the third round of funding that they've had. We've seen a lot of these companies go through multi-series rounds of equity financing, and again, lots of money, billions of dollars have been pouring in, despite the fact that the price has been falling the past, well, up until a month ago, it's been falling for the past 12, 13 months. The other thing I just want to point out, it's not a big deal, but again, it shows that major news outlets have dedicated time and space to covering cryptocurrency. Now look what Forbes does. Forbes has its own Twitter handle, Forbes Crypto. That's a pretty big deal because Forbes is a pretty big news outlet, and they're just here talking about the price of Bitcoin, what's behind the rally. No one has given a satisfactory answer as to what was behind yesterday's rally, today's rally. I checked back. They had a news release out about 4 days ago updating on where they are, and they said they had no release date yet, so it wasn't backed. We saw that the SEC had put out an announcement the other day saying that they had extended the comment period for both the Bitwise and the VanEck/CBOE Bitcoin ETF, so it's not like there's a Bitcoin ETF pending. We did see an announcement from in Switzerland that XRP had a ETF approved. They already have a Bitcoin ETF in Switzerland, and they announced that they had plans to issue a Litecoin and a Ethereum ETF, but I don't think that moved the price. Again, big news, but not that the whole sector would move like that. But also here, Bloomberg also has done the same thing as Forbes, Bloomberg Crypto. And we know that CNBC, they have fast money, and oftentimes that's just a crypto pumping show with Brian Kelly on there talking about why crypto's going to the moon. But here you go, Bloomberg Crypto. And again, they don't know why the price, no one knows why the price went soaring higher yesterday. Then, of course, we had people yesterday and today saying that this one here says, in an opinion, Bitcoin's above 5,000. Pay it no mind. There's no good reason to turn bullish on crypto. So this person who wrote this article is feeling pretty happy with himself, saying, look, see, nothing to see here. Although we can't really tell whether this recent last half hour, 45-minute decline in price is going to accelerate or whether it's going to stabilize. Right now, Bitcoin is boosted back up to $4,910. So it's definitely in a volatile position right now. I think it's trying to find, all these charts are trying to find some stability as to whether they're going to go up or down. Another one said here, don't buy crypto. Warren's wealth manager. But, you know, you saw this when the price was high, when the price was low. There are people who have their opinions, and they don't really change them irrespective of the price, which I think is actually makes sense unless you're just a trader. If you're going to form opinions on the utility of something or the value of something, looking at the price of Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever the coin you're looking at is probably not the best way to determine whether something has a future or something doesn't have a future just based on the price. Of course, if it's zero, then you might be able to say it really has no future. All right, what else do we have in the regulation? This was interesting. A lot of there's still people out there that actually think that Bitcoin is perceived as a threat to governments and that they're going to shut it down if it ever gets big enough. Now, that would make sense. I think you would nip it in the bud before you'd allow it to get big and then say, oh, we're going to shut it down. I think what's been happening has been that in the last couple of years, I think big money has realized they can make big money from this. And that's why you're seeing all this investment into the crypto area, Silicon Valley, Wall Street. Now, there's a lot of money for lawyers, accountants to take tokens public, ICOs, to back stable coins, trading fees, storage fees. The idea that if it gets bigger, well, they're just going to shut it down. I think the bigger it gets in a regulated fashion, the more money that the government can get from, not just from taxes, but also from the people who are engaged in this activity, Wall Street and Silicon Valley. They'll have political action in favor of lobbying government to make sure that they get the proper regulation that they want so they can have the playing field in which they can attract institutional money and make the most money. And governments like to partner with big money. That's why New York has bit licenses. They hand those out. I don't see a situation where they're viewing it now as somehow, you know, on the other side, there are people saying, oh, it's going to crush the dollar and it's going to end central banking. I'm not quite sure of that. There will be people who will use cryptocurrencies on the fringes or on the margins, and there will be money laundering, and they'll use it for illegal purposes. They may not pay tax on it, but for the most part, what I see happening is the big money is trying to corral this, a good portion of it, into a regulatory structure. They want ETFs, they want 40x storage, they want to bring the money into the regulatory system. If that's the case, and a good portion, 70, 80, 90% of the cryptocurrency trading and the ICOs happen under the regulatory purview and people are reporting their taxes, well, that just means that the government makes money on SEC fees, and then they have the ability to go after not the whole thing, but the bad actors in the space, and they would be a minority. And it's a lot easier to corral something and then only go after the bad actors than it is to try to go against the whole thing. It's the baby with the bathwater concept. And you're seeing it. They're not, I mean, they could, but when you have Square and Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk promoting cryptocurrencies, when you have the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ involved in the space, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, there's just too much big money involved. Microsoft, where they're going to say, no, you're involved in illegal activity now, so now you're going to have to just get out. I don't know. That might have been, that was a view I held maybe in 2012 or 13, that might be a response that governments might take. But it's far too along the line now for that. There's far too much money invested in it. And I believe if done properly, it's not a threat. As much as the anarcho-capitalists may want to think that it's the biggest threat to the world, to the financial system, and they're not going to allow it, or even if they don't want to allow it, it's impervious to any type of attempt to shut it down. And we have two sides on that. You have people that say the government just shut it down. It's like that easy, like switching off a light. And then you have others that say that it's impossible to shut down and people just go on their merry way. I don't think it's either. I don't even think they're even going to try to bother to shut anything down. I think they're going to try, what they are doing is to regulate it, manage it, skim off the top whatever taxes and whatever else they can get out of it, and then use whatever resources they want to go after people that are doing bad things. Money laundering, tax evasion, using it for illegal activity. Because there's big money in this, and I don't see why they would want to strike it down. But we'll see what happens. Alright, this one was interesting. I had mentioned a while back that I thought millennials don't seem to be buying stocks and houses. And part of that reason is they don't have the money. I don't think it's because there's something about somebody who's 36 years old that they just don't like stock. They just don't like houses. They don't like these things. I think they don't have the money. But I thought at some point, the small amount of money that they may have, they are more inclined to invest in cryptocurrencies. And I said as they get older, they will. They'll have the money if they make it in the cryptocurrencies. They will spend it on things like stocks and houses. And this guy over at Forbes made the point. It's calling it the greatest wealth transfer. Now, he's not talking about Mike Maloney's all the people who have silver and this is going to be the greatest wealth transfer and you can buy a single family home with a monster box of silver eagles whenever this mythical collapse happens. This is more about, he's saying that millennials are going to inherit the boomer money. So if you are a millennial and your boomer parents have a certain amount of capital, you may get that as part of your inheritance. And being millennials and being more viewing cryptocurrencies more favorably, you may put some of that money in cryptocurrencies. And this person is speculating if they put it into cryptocurrencies, then that's going to put more pressure on the supply because there's more demand coming in. It's a rational theory. It's similar to Harry Dent's view. He had the demographic issue. He was saying that baby boomers getting older would be a problem for the stock market because there wouldn't be new money coming in and the baby boomers would be retiring and by definition having to sell their stocks in order to fund their retirement. So this is kind of the reverse. Well, where does that money go? The money doesn't just evaporate. And one of my theories has been that there will be money going into cryptocurrencies, not necessarily 100% widespread adoption and everyone is going to be walking around with a Trezor or whatever, but that there will be an increase in crypto adoption. It may not be dramatic and overnight, but it may be incrementally enough that it pushes these things higher. All right, what else do we have in the crypto area? Adoption, yeah. One thing I want to talk about are inflection points regarding. The other day, we were talking about. Let me find it. Oh, no, I can't find it here. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. We're talking about the calm. I think yesterday's title, the show was something like sudden stunning surge in cryptos shakes crypto calm. And we did a poll and we noted that was about a week ago, and that was an inflection point. You can sense something was gonna happen. I didn't know what. We didn't know whether it was going to be a move one way up or down in any of the assets that we're following, gold, silver, stock market, cryptocurrencies. But generally when you see that kind of calm, it is, especially in cryptocurrencies, it is a calm before the storm because they are by definition volatile. And when they're not volatile for a long period of time, they're itching to do something. And we saw what happened. And now it's even more volatile because not only did they make a big surge higher, then they moved back up a bit. Right now, Bitcoin's at 49.41. But we saw a jump from 4,200 to 5,300, now back down to 4,900. Probably when we get off the call here, maybe it'll be 5,000, maybe 4,000. Who knows? So that was an inflection point. But you notice when I do these polls, I generally do them at inflection points. There's another one. This was when the stock market hit a bottom to the day. And the stock market rose the next day after the plunge protection team met. And I asked the question, did a bear walk out of the woods today? And everyone said no. 80% said no. But as it's turned out, the Dow Jones has gone from, it must have been 22,000 all the way back up to 26,000. I would say that bear market ended. Looked like it was on its way down, but it's rallied pretty much ever since that poll was taken. Here's another one, inflection point, that we took a poll on. Litecoin hit $22. back in early December, and I asked the question, is it a safe bet at this price? Is it a long shot? Or is it a sure loser? Now, think about it. 51% said this is it. Done. Put a fork in it. It's over. Litecoin, $22. Used to be $300. You could just forget about this thing. It's over. One of the things that I've learned over the years is it's good to have an initial reaction. It's good even to think of your rationale for the reaction. But if you stop there, you're doing yourself a disservice. What I like to do is say to myself, let me argue against that in my mind. Why could it go higher? And not as I raise why it could go higher, immediately knock it down, because then you're not really, all you're doing is still defending your first point of view. Actually try to take the point of view on the other side. And I see people, look, this isn't a criticism. Everyone does it. I do it all the time. Everybody is married to their own ideas to a certain extent. But I see it all the time with people who form an opinion based on something they learned 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And that is all I need to know. And they don't want to know anything else because now they know enough to say why they are for or against something. And they never really think possibly, like for example, what about all the people who've been following silver for 10 years? And the price goes nowhere. But they're told and they believe silver is rarer than gold. And silver is so useful in our lives. And they believe whatever the mantra is. And they're told the price is going to go higher. And it doesn't. And maybe they don't stop to think, why won't the price go higher? Why hasn't the price gone higher? And they accept ready, off-the-shelf excuses, manipulation, or whatever it is. And then they never think any further. It's the same with the gold-silver ratio. It becomes accepted. If you guys heard me on the SGP report, there was an assumption in the question, how long do you think that, it was something like, how long do you think that the gold-silver ratio will remain out of whack? And I said, well, I don't think it's out of whack. And the only reason I was able to comment on that was they've been saying it's out of whack for 10 years. Well, maybe thinking that it's out of whack itself is out of whack thinking, because you're not even stopping to think, well, there's a reason that the gold-silver ratio is where it is. But of course, that's not what you get once you've married yourself to a narrative. And I think that's what happens, and it's just, I'm letting you into how I look at things. But here's one. I mean, this goes on all the time. This is Silver Shield, silver whatever. 10 years of this. This is the trade of the century. Sell stocks and buy silver. Now, that may be a good call today. I don't know. But that's been the same call for the last 10 years. And if it has, it's the same with the greatest wealth transfer in history is going to happen with silver. You can believe that. It's possible. Today is the day that it starts going in the other direction. But I don't know. Once you've adopted a narrative, I think it's healthy to challenge the narrative, at least in your own head. Moving on to gold. Look at this. Italy. The populist parties in Italy are taking a shine to their own gold. And this is on the after, it's before, but also they still believe it. They think that that's their gold. It doesn't belong to the bankers and the politicians. Italy's got, I don't know, 2,400, 2,500 tons of, no. Is that how much they have? Yeah, I think they got about 2,500. They're third in the world behind Germany. Germany's got 3,370 tons. U.S. has 813 tons. And Italy is third, and they've got about 2,500 tons. But Mario Draghi of the ECB said countries cannot manage their gold reserves without first checking with him and the ECB. And the people of Italy say they're not even thinking about the ECB. They're thinking Italy itself. Oh, this is their gold. We saw a similar populist movement like that in Switzerland with the Save Our Swiss Gold initiative. That failed after there was a lot of intervention because what the Swiss initiative wanted to do a few years ago was buy back all the gold that they had sold when they joined the IMF. So they had to buy back like 1,200 tons. They used to have over 2,000 tons of gold, and now they have 1,040 tons. And they wanted a prohibition from selling any gold and that they would add to the gold reserves. Well, that went down. All right, what else do we have? We've done the gold. So, Chinese news. This is interesting. I didn't even know about the Opium Wars. England supposedly ceded the Chinese continent and the ports with opium in back around 1840s, I think. And it just basically knocked out the entire Chinese population and area, so England was able to go in and do what they wanted. Fentanyl comes from China often, and as you know, there's been a big crisis in the United States with more people dying from opium overdoses, fentanyl overdoses, than in car accidents, and then in Vietnam, like 60, 70,000 people a year. So part of this deal that's supposedly happening with China, China has banned all types of fentanyl in the United States. Just wonder how it got there in the first place. Now they're saying, and we hear this all the time, U.S. and China draw closer to final trade deal. Okay, we've heard that one before. We'll believe it when we see it. Then my Belt and Road. The United States pretty much officially against China's Belt and Road initiative. Many countries have felt like they've been taken advantage of. They take the Chinese investment. It's in the form of debt. They can't pay it back. And next thing you know, it's not funny until someone loses a port and China takes over the port because the country can't pay back the loan to build the port or whatever they lent them the money for. So it says the United States will not send high-level officials to attend China's second Belt and Road Summit in Beijing. They got to sort out their trade issues first, I'd imagine. All right, now, two pieces of, one is economic moronica and the other is possibly constitutional. Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Now, we saw Liz Warren about a month ago. She decided that it'd be a good idea that if you've got a lot of capital, not income, but you just happen to have a few homes, you have vintage cars, maybe you have a bunch of artwork. Anyway, you have a net worth over, let's say, I think it was $50 million. Well, she wanted the government to get a piece of that because you'd have to pay a carrying cost because you happen to have, it'd be a wealth tax. In a sense, it's part of a confiscation because you're renting your wealth and you have to pay the government a tribute to have it. Now, most people say, oh, well, who cares? Who has $50 million worth of assets? Not the big deal. Well, that's what they said about the income tax when it first came out in 1913. They said it's just for rich people. Well, now everybody pays income tax pretty much. And you know that $50 million threshold, if that's what it is, won't be enough. So they move it to $25 million. You say, oh, who has $25 million? What's the big deal? They can afford it. Then it goes to $10 million, to $1 million. And the next thing you know, if you have a chair, you got to pay tax on it because it's part of your wealth, it's part of your assets. Well, the latest in this kind of slippery slope, you would think this makes no sense. This is Ron Wyden. He wants to propose a tax to address inequality, and that would be unrealized capital gains. Now, this is worse. Well, I guess this is somewhat, you would have to think this would probably fit into Liz Warren's plan because let's say you go out and you buy Apple stock and you have like $1,000 worth of it and it goes up to $10,000. Or use today's. Let's say you have $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and it goes up to $10,000 because it went up. And then you don't sell it. Well, at any given point, the government's going to say you have $10,000. You're a rich guy. And they tax you on the $10,000. Let's say it's a 10% tax. Well, now you owe $1,000. Then Bitcoin goes back down to $1,000. You lost money. You're not rich. You don't have the $10,000. You only have $1,000, and you're going to have to sell the Bitcoin at $1,000 to pay the tax, the $1,000 tax you owe. This is moronic. I mean, it is not the way for a government to raise revenue is to tax unrealized capital gains. You can play around with the capital gains tax and say, well, when you sell it, long term is 40%, 28%, short term is 40%. They can argue about that all the time. You can argue about whether that's fair and just either, but that's not the point. It's workable to the extent that people know what to do, they know when to sell, and they know what they're going to owe when they sell. But for example, if you buy Bitcoin, it goes up, and you're going to be taxed on it, you're going to have people doing it's going to screw up the markets because people are going to be buying and selling for all kinds of different reasons other than the price of the asset that they're trading. They're going to be, oh, I owe tax, so I better sell now. Anyway, that's very moronic. Now, this other one, it's not as moronic. I mean, they people trying to make a big deal of this. Now, Trump has said that he's going to sign an executive order that if universities don't honor free speech, he's going to cut their funding. And then it sounds on its face that Berkeley is saying, well, that free speech order is unconstitutional. And then people snarkily say, well, how can the First Amendment be unconstitutional? It's not that simple. It basically, can the president control funding to universities? He's not saying that, they're not saying that the president is being unconstitutional by promoting the First Amendment. But there it is. So some things I think appear moronic, and people can, they like to latch onto them in a very surface level manner without really thinking it through. But it is also, it's up to Berkeley to make their case a little better as well, so they don't appear to be making a moronic argument. All right, let's see what you guys are saying over in the comments. The Smaulgld mug stackers are saying. Selling a lot of mugs lately, which is good. Also, by the way, I think today might be the last day of that Austrian Philharmonic special where you buy 19, you get one free. Essentially, you get a roll of Austrian silver Philharmonics for the price of 19. So MSD bullion, I get a small commission if you do buy it. We've shown this before. These are the charts. Nice looking coin. Austrian Philharmonics are a sovereign coin, just like the Canadian Maple Leafs, just like the Mexican Libertad, just like the American Silver Eagles. They're less pricey than all of them. They don't sell very many of them anymore in Europe because of the value-added tax, but they are a good way. They're priced almost like silver rounds, a little more pricey than that. But if you're interested in that, go to smaulgld.com and check it out. I'll give you a link in a second in the chat box. There's also a link below this BitChute and this YouTube, and the offer is on the Smaulgld site. So I'm going to put that up for you. Then I'm going to put up my own fundraising image, and then we're going to take your questions and comments and see what you guys are saying today, where you think the cryptocurrencies are going, or the gold and silver are going. Now, let's see if we've got any more movement there. Yeah, it looks like Bitcoin is at 49.53. And I do want to thank the Smaulgld patrons, those who have signed up for Patreon and continue to support Smaulgld that way. Also, those who have joined the Subscribe Star. We have a couple of mug stackers there. That is, you go to Subscribe Star and search for Smaulgld. You can help the site out that way. And then I'll leave you with the fundraising page here, where, and somebody, you know, once in a while people send me small tips via Bitcoin and Litecoin, sometimes larger tips. They identify themselves, and you could do that simply by opening up your Bitcoin or Litecoin wallet, checking out those QR codes and making your donation that way. Or you can support Smaulgld by check or sending me. Yesterday was great. We did a money lesson. Someone sent me 3 envelopes with real money, fiat money, and crypto money. And we opened up all the envelopes, and I showed you what I got there. And you can also make a one-time donation or recurring donation via PayPal. So thank you very much for that. And of course, you can always buy Smaulgld game-changing mugs if you're stacking mugs or pet bowls or shot glasses or glasses, or buying a This Guy Smaulgld t-shirt. You can all check that out at the Smaulgld store. Easiest way, just go to smaulgld.com. All of your options are there. Okay, let's see what the mug stackers are saying. What do we got? What do we got? Jack Howitzer says, I can smell the crypto FOMO. Yeah. Crypto Madness is, and Crypto Shrugged Author is here. Good to see you. Let's see. Pablo is here. Yes, and Litecoin almost reached 100. I think it did for like a second, and then I think it's back down to 70. What is it at right now? It's interesting what happens with this. It's 75 to 88. So now it's at 84.6. Look at that. Wow. It might go back to 100 tonight. It might go to 50. Who knows? Ken Singsta from Poland. Oh, we got a couple of people from Poland. We got people from the Czech Republic, people from Russia, people from the United Kingdom. It's very interesting. De La Ville is here as well. All right. Crypto dump right now, says Ann. Well, that was, and now it's back up. Prashanti girl, we haven't seen you in a while. You're back. Hello, De La Ville, Ann, and the Mugsters. I guess we're all Mugsters now, huh? DW is here, finally making it to a live stream. All right, you guys are all talking to me. See, Ann's saying $72 on Coinbase, yuck, and right now that's at $85. So look at that move. DW Ripple is 31 cents. Now I can retire. All is one is here. Look at that. Ann Holloman, Stellar's doing well. You know, I signed up for that airdrop on Coinbase. They never got back to me, so I didn't get my $50 worth of Stellar. And I tried signing up again. It says you're already on the list, so I guess they're working through that. It's nice to get $50 worth of stuff when you get it, but I didn't get it. DB Stupid says, just checking in for my reality check. That's what you do get from Smaulgld. That's correct. And Pablo Pena says, yes, that cryptos are no longer viewed as a threat by governments. Infill Ontario Town Corp is now taking Bitcoin as payment for taxes. That's correct. We saw Ohio already takes Bitcoin for payment of taxes. That was one of the big cuts against. It's not a currency if you can't pay your taxes with it. Well, now you can pay your taxes with it. And what's interesting is the CFTC says it's not a currency anyway. So it's not a threat. They say it's a commodity. All right. DB Stupid. Gusta Broken. Cheers from the Netherlands. Dank u wel for joining us this evening. Ann Holland. Bernie Sanders probably wants crypto shut down because he hates everything.
That's not true, Ann. There's many things that I like the tree houses that I have, and I love my wife too.
So there, Ann. Don't go criticizing Uncle Bernie. And Morning Man says,
he hates the 1% that make up the 400 people that are not us that have 99% of the money. I love Bernie,
says Morning Mayan. Uh-oh. Political spat going to break out between Ann and Lisa. We're not going to get into that one. But I do Bernie for hire, so whatever you want him to say, I will make him say. I will have him say it. All right. Gusta Broken. I do understand the emotional value of property. And in all good time, when the market is good, to be able to make a better choice. Fiona Whalen, Lewis, when the money of the baby boomers will easily be gobbled up by the medical industry. Well, that's true. That's true. You could be thinking, oh, my parents are going to leave me a lot of money. And then the longer they live and the more that they have medical expenses, there goes your inheritance. Yep, that's true. Although, I hear on the radio a lot, they have all these financial plannings you can do so that somehow you get Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, one of them to pay for it, and you don't have to sell your house, and I don't know. It's a bunch of shenanigans. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? DW. He had a scam call that my daughter was in trouble with the police. You get the other scam calls from the IRS. Just remember, the IRS doesn't call people unless you already have established a relationship, I'd imagine. But they don't just call up and say, you owe money, send it right away, or we're going to come arrest you. All right. Yes. What else? Fiona is right. What is she right about? Oh, that there's a huge problem with the opioids. We need to talk like this and spread the word to protect the kids. Yes, indeed. All right. What else before we get off? I don't want to miss anyone's change. Anne says she hasn't received her Game Changer mug. Well, remember, if you order directly from Smaulgld, and that would be, you can only order the classic and super classic mugs. I ship those out myself. The price includes a 2-day shipping, priority shipping, and insured. When you order via the Smaulgld store, it takes like 5 to 7 days. I ordered from them. It doesn't come lickety split quick like it does when you buy directly from Smaulgld. But you'll get your stuff in due course. Should be, if you ordered it over the weekend, you probably have it by the end of this week. And I'm sure many who have purchased that way can attest to that schedule. It takes about a week. when you order from the Smaulgld store. Gusta Broken, yes, he's a master tradesman, retired at 69. That's right, he does good work. All right, Pablo Lewis, if Trump closes the Mexican border to USA, do you see that a shockwave to the markets? Depends on duration too. Yeah, well, I heard that the price of avocados was supposed to go up a lot. I was just at the store; they're still 89 cents, so I guess they're still flowing across the border, and I guess it would depend. But I think Trump said that they've already stopped. Mexico's already doing something. I don't know. I don't think he's just talking a big game, but I think you can't. You can, but when you well, he did it with China somewhat. When you shut trade down between two countries like that, both sides lose. So the question is, who gets hurt most? And will Mexico blink first? And I would imagine that since Mexico probably sends more goods to the U.S. than the U.S. sends to Mexico, they would. However, the flip side to that is also a weakness for the U.S. If you're relying on Mexican goods and food and auto parts, then who knows? I don't know. We'll have to see. I think you're right, Pablo. It depends on how long it lasts. But again, the way the markets look at things, the market probably wouldn't go down if he closed the border. But talk of him opening it up again would make the stock market skyrocket, just like the Chinese trade deal, or lack of one, has not hurt the market. But anytime they talk about once they come up with a deal or they're close to a deal, the stock market rises. So now maybe he can string along this Mexican thing if he does shut the border, that they might open the border again. Bernie for hire. That's what I'm going to be. That's right. And says, I want to hire you. Well, tell me what to say, and
then I'll make sure that everything I say for the rest of the night will be spoken like Bernie. You're all going to die if we don't get the health care that we need.
All right. What else? Ann Holland says, I want to use the travel mug. Oh, you bought a travel mug when I go to Hatteras again next week. Yeah, that travel mug does travel well. And when you get it, it all says, like any travel mug, it should. You put the top on it, you can close it and it stays warm, and then you open it up and you can drink out of it. So you should get it. They send you an email when you get the order. That's what I do, and they do it as well. And then they send you another one like 2 or 3 days later. And they said something like, congratulations, your order's in processing. And then the next day they say it's sent, and then it comes. So you'll get and let us know when you get it, and take pictures. You promise pictures with yourself and your 5 cats with your Smaulgld paraphernalia. So we'll be on the waiting for that. All right. And I think that's it for tonight. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And we'll be back again tomorrow night. Saturday night silver. I think I'll do solo. I think I'm going to do the Perth Mint, the U.S. Mint. We'll go through the recent sales there. And then maybe the following weekend I'll have a guest to discuss silver as well. All right. So last I get any comments or questions in the next 10 seconds, we're going to be out of here. 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1%, 0.